Hello, everyone. Philip Lee returning with another episode of Civil War Chat. Today is Tuesday, the 18th of October, 2022. Click on the subscribe button to subscribe to future episodes and also the notification bell in the far upper right to be notified when they're released. And also, if you click on that, it can promise you the trick-or-treaters that you get at your house will be the best and the most well-mannered and most appreciative of your treats that you give them, of anyone in the neighborhood. So click on that bell and get that result. Today's topic is Lee and Jackson. So let's go ahead and get into that. When Lee and Jackson first collaborated during the Peninsula Campaign in late June of 1862, Jackson was the more accomplished commander. He had earned his Stonewall moniker at First Manassas and augmented it with his superb Shenandoah Valley Campaign in May and early June of 1862. Lee, by comparison, had no similar accomplishments. Consequently, the public tended to have more confidence in Jackson than in Lee, who was derided as the King of Spades by his soldiers for having them build entrenchments around Richmond after he took command of the army defending the capital from General Joe Johnston, who was wounded on June the 1st, 1862, at the Battle of Fair Oaks. Okay, so what follows now is an edited excerpt of Douglas Southall Freeman's explanation of how one congressman urged that Jackson be allocated superior resources as compared to Lee. Congressman and Colonel A. Boteler, the unofficial envoy of Jackson's army of the Valley, arrived at Lee's headquarters on the 14th of June with a confidential message from Jackson requesting that Lee bring up Jackson's strength to 40,000 men so that he could invade the North. Lee discussed it with Boteler. Colonel, he said, don't you think that General Jackson had better come down here first and help me to drive these troublesome people away from Richmond? Well, if I answer your question at all, said Boteler, it must be in the negative. Why so? Inquired Lee. Because, Boteler explained, if you bring our Valley boys down here at this season among the pestilential swamps that change from the change from the pure mountain air where they're used to the miasmatic atmosphere around here, will kill them off faster than the Federals had been doing. That, said Lee, will depend upon the time they have to stay here. Have you another reason to offer? Yes, Boteler rejoined stoutly, and it's that Jackson has been doing so well with an independent command that it seems a pity not to let him have his own way. And then, too, bringing him here, General, will be, to use a homely phrase, putting all your eggs in one basket. I see, Lee said with a kindly laugh, that your appreciation of General Jackson is as high as my own. And it is because of my appreciation of him that I wish to have him join me here. Now, Jackson, everyone knows Jackson put in a disappointing performance during the Peninsula Campaign. It's well known. Nevertheless, during those 7 days, he witnessed Lee's 7 days of relentless attacks that drove the enemy from Richmond, leaving them cowed at Harrison's Landings 25 miles away. And Jackson could see that Lee's aggressiveness was much like his own. As a result, they were two men of the same attitude. And Jackson developed a respect for Lee that may have been only incipient before they shared that experience. Freeman writes of an incident at Jackson's HQ shortly after Lee's final assaults at on McClellan at Malvern Hill, which was the last battle of the Peninsula Campaign. At the first opportunity, Jackson sought out Colonel A.R. Boteler, who was a member of Congress as well as an acting member of Jackson's staff. Do you know that we are losing valuable time here, Jackson began. How so? Boteler replied. Why, by repeating the blunder we made after the Battle of Manassas and allowing the enemy the leisure to recover from his defeat. He then explained that as McClellan was beaten, he would have to reorganize and reinforce his army before it would be in fighting trim, and that this assured the safety of the Richmond. Advantage should be taken of this to invade the North. He wanted Boteler to go forthwith to see the president to urge this course upon him. What is the use of seeing Mr. Davis? Boteler asked, as he'll probably refer me again to General Lee. So why don't you just speak to General Lee yourself on this subject? I've already done so, said Jackson. Well, what did he say? He says nothing. And then he added carefully, don't think I complain of his silence. He doubtless has good reason for it. Then Boteler inquired half curiously, you don't think General Lee is slow in making up his mind? Slow, exclaimed Jackson with much energy. By no means, Colonel. On the contrary, his perception is as quick and unerring as his judgment is infallible. But with the vast responsibilities now resting upon him, he is perfectly right in withholding a hasty expression of his opinions and purposes. He paused for a moment and then said, so great is my confidence in General Lee that I'm willing to follow him blindfolded, but I fear he is unable to give me a definite answer now because of influences at Richmond, where perhaps the matter has been mentioned by him and may be under consideration. I therefore want you to see the president and urge the importance of prompt action. Boteler duly called on Mr. Davis and stated Jackson's views. Okay. What really happened is on the 13th of July, which is less than 2 weeks after the Battle of Malvern Hill, Lee ordered Jackson and Ewell to proceed to Gordonsville, 67 miles northwest of Richmond. In other words, taking them out of the peninsula by a significant amount of distance. The movement was not to invade the north, but to meet the threat of Union General John Pope's army approaching Lee's rear from northern Virginia. Okay, to get more on this, I recommend my book, The Confederacy at Flood Tide. It discusses the period from June of 62 to December of 62 when the Confederacy came closest to winning its independence. It involves actions in espionage, battles, Eastern Theater, Western Theater, and even the Trans-Mississippi, as well as international and diplomatic developments that all culminated during this period when the South could have won its independence. You can get the book for $26 at Amazon or Barnes & Noble or other bookstores. If you want an autographed copy from me, it would be $30. But you just have to email me at Phil, P-H-I-L _ Lee, L-E-I-G-H at me.com. And we'll take it from there. Okay, I want to thank you for tuning in and look forward to seeing you next time.